This is a good question. It's very hard, or at least it seems very hard, but this is like a very good example of what I say a lot in these videos, that it's okay to stumble your way to the answer. You don't need to always know the plan for how you're going to get the answer. You just need to have like a little bit of knowledge at a time. So that's the essence of the get back to basics strategy. You can totally look at this question and be confused because it's confusing. But you have to be able to squeeze something intelligible out of that confusion. And here you have really no excuse. They tell you it's a line. We know lines. Half the SAT is lines, or a quarter of the SAT is lines. So we know how to handle lines. So the first thing that you should be writing on your page if you are confused is y equals mx plus b. Okay? That's our lodestar. That's our anchor. We need to use that formula to make sense of all the confusing stuff. So what can we do first? Well, in order to have an equation of a line, I would want the slope and the y-intercept, the m and the b. And they tell me that it passes through the origin, right? So on a graph, remember the origin is the middle, the point 0, 0. And so if it's passing through the origin, that means the y-intercept is 0. So for the purposes of our equation, we just made one of the letters completely disappear. That's awesome. So what we really have is y equals mx. The b is 0. Now what? Well, I can use another strategy. I have an equation, and I have some points. Okay? So I know that another one of my strategies is to plug points into equations. Why would I plug them in here? Because I can, and I'm confused, and I need something to do, and that's a good thing to do, and it's usually the right thing to do. So I'm going to take this first point, 2k, and plug it in. So k is the value of y, m we don't know, but 2 is the value of x. Okay, well, I'm just going to rearrange this a little bit so that it makes a little more sense. So it's going to be k is equal to 2m. But I'm still confused. I don't know why that helps me, but okay. I'm not going to erase it because it might help me later. And so you don't want to erase any ideas that you have. If you do something and you mess up, try not to erase. Keep it there. It's a record. And sometimes the thing that you thought was you messing up is actually going to be helpful. So what I would do next is say, all right, well, that didn't get me what I wanted, but I have another point. Maybe I plug that in and see what happens. So, okay, 32 is now my y. My m is still missing, and then k is my x. And again, that's a problem because I have two variables. And an equation with two variables isn't really great because I can't really figure out what I need from that. I just kind of am stuck. But I don't have one equation with two variables. I have two equations with two variables. That's a system. And especially the way it's kind of set up here, I think that this next piece, this is maybe the biggest jump that we need to make to solve this question. But it's set up really nicely for us. If k is equal to 2m, my instinct here would be to substitute for k. Because that's what I always do when I have like k equals, x equals, right? It's just like a thing that you do. So, I don't know why it would help me, but I don't really pause to even ask that question. I just do it because it's a thing that I can do, and I'm confused, and something is better than nothing. So when I do that, I get 32 is equal to m times 2m. Well, now I have one variable. I can solve for that, right? So 32 is equal to 2m squared. Let's divide by 2, right? Let's get m. So that means 16 is equal to m squared. And so take the square root, so 4 is equal to m. Well, that's something. Now, it's not what they wanted, right? They wanted the value of k, but I have the value of m, and just like I substituted in for k before, now I can substitute in for m, and that's even better because since m is a number, m is going to disappear. K is equal to 2 times 4. K is equal to 8. And that is choice C, and that is the answer. There are other ways to get this. If you know the slope formula, y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2, we can use that to solve this, we're going to need to set up some equations, and it's really helpful to use the point 0, 0 in that formula so that things are easy. I'm not going to go into it because I do think that my way here is the best way, and it really gets my main point across, which is that you just do what you can do in a lot of SAT questions, and what you can do is what you should do. So this idea of being able to stumble upon your answer, it's really, really useful because that's what I do. I've been taking SATs for 15 years, and yeah, I just sometimes stumble upon the answer. Not because I have a plan for every single question. I sometimes just do the first thing that comes to my mind, and it turns out that it's the right thing. And you just kind of work your way through it. So don't be afraid to try step 1 if you don't have step 5, okay? You can do step 1 and not know what step 5 is going to be, but figure it out along the way. And getting back to basics is a very helpful way because it reminds us of what we know, the very simple ideas that we know, and plug points into equations is still probably my favorite strategy because it works in so many cases, and it saved us here. We didn't know why it was going to save us, but sure enough, it saved us.